The desert sun had just started to peek over the rooftops of Crestwood Estates when Michael Hayes stepped outside, cradling a mug of black coffee in one hand and a coiled garden hose in the other. His one-story stucco house off-white with slate gray trim, just like every other house on the block, sat near the end of a cul-de-sac lined with neatly trimmed hedges and overly cheerful mailboxes. The kind of neighborhood where people waved with their teeth but whispered behind curtains. It was peaceful that morning. Quiet. The air still cool from the night, the smell of jasmine faint but present. The kind of day that made you believe nothing bad could happen. And then it did. Emily, his wife, stepped out a few minutes later in gym clothes and sneakers, her long dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail. She was laughing at something on her phone, her voice drifting lightly down the street. There was a certain brightness to her that morning. Maybe it was the rare moment of calm in their hectic household. Or maybe it was just that she was finally feeling like herself again. Michael squatted near the flower beds adjusting the sprinkler heads when he saw it. The SUV. Matte black. Creeping instead of driving. It rolled to a slow, deliberate stop at the end of their driveway. There were no license plates. No HOA decals. Just one unsettling detail painted in large white block letters across both side doors. HOA Enforcement Unit. It looked official if you squinted from across the street. Up close, it felt off, like someone trying a little too hard to look like they belonged. Two men stepped out. Both wore dark utility vests, tan cargo pants, and tactical boots. One was bald with arms like tree trunks and a square jaw that could have stopped a car. The other had a clipboard, mirrored sunglasses, and a patchy beard that clashed with the pressed sharpness of his uniform. Michael rose to his feet, coffee steaming in his hand, brows furrowed. His gut told him something was wrong. "Morning," the clipboard guy called out. His tone was clipped, flat, devoid of any genuine friendliness. "We're with the Crestwood HOA Compliance Unit." Michael frowned. Didn't know the HOA had a SWAT team? The bald guy didn't laugh. He walked right past Michael like he wasn't even there, heading straight for Emily. She lowered her phone and took a step back, smile fading. "Can I help you?" "We received a complaint," the bald one said, his voice like gravel. "Unauthorized landscaping modifications and excessive recreational equipment on the premises. We need to conduct an immediate inspection." Michael stepped in. "Hold up. You don't have a warrant. You're not police." "What is this?" The clipboard guy flashed a laminated ID badge that said HOA Compliance Officer. It even had a cheap eagle graphic on it, probably stolen from the internet. He waved it like it meant something. "This is within our authority. Section 14B of the Community Covenant allows visual inspection. Your wife is currently obstructing the process." Emily didn't move, arms crossed, feet planted. Michael's voice rose. "Back off." But the bald man didn't. He reached out and grabbed Emily's wrist fast and without warning. Michael's coffee mug shattered on the pavement. But Emily didn't scream. She didn't even flinch. Instead, with a fluid twist and a flick of her shoulder, she tore free from his grip in one smooth, practiced motion. The bald man staggered back, caught off guard. "You really shouldn't have done that," she said calmly. "They didn't know. They had no idea." Emily wasn't just a fit woman in gym clothes. She trained fighters. UFC professionals. Special forces. She taught people how to survive. And now they were about to find out just how badly they'd messed up. Clipboard guy stepped forward, trying to recover the illusion of authority. "Sir, you're escalating." "No," Michael cut in. "You grabbed my wife. You came onto my property pretending to be cops. That's assault." The bald guy was staring at Emily now, and the arrogance was draining from his face. There was something else: uncertainty. Fear. "You don't know who I am, do you?" Emily asked, taking a step forward. Michael stayed still. He'd seen that look before, once at a gym in Phoenix during a closed-door sparring match. Emily's eyes had that same cold calculation. Not rage. Not fear. Control. Clipboard guy reached for something on his vest. "A bluff." "Maybe. You thought this was just another house," Emily said. "Another couple you could intimidate. But you stepped on the wrong driveway." More neighbors were peeking through blinds now. A jogger had stopped halfway down the street. Someone was holding up a phone. Michael's heart pounded. This wasn't in any HOA manual. "This ends now," Michael said. "Get off my property." Clipboard guy, his vest read T. Ramos sneered. "This isn't your property. You signed the HOA agreement. The easement, the landscape, the code enforcement, all ours. Michael grabbed his phone. Then I'm calling the cops. Ramos stepped closer. That'd be a mistake. We've got documents. Witnesses. You're already 2 violations in. One more and you're in front of the board. He'd heard this story before. From Mrs. Patel across the street. From a single mom 2 blocks over. People being threatened for dumb infractions. A gnome. A flag. A hose not coiled the right way. This was no inspection. This was a shakedown. Emily's voice cut through the rising tension. You think this is about a lawn code? She turned to the bald man who had begun to tense again like he was prepping for another grab. Michael moved toward her, but Emily raised a hand, barely a flick. She had this. You're not real officers, she said. You're criminals. The bald guy lunged. Emily stepped, turned, and struck a precise palm strike to the center of his chest. Controlled. Measured. Enough to knock him back and knock the wind out of him. He stumbled and nearly tripped over the curb. Ramos fumbled for his radio. 10 to 53, need backup at. He didn't finish. Emily grabbed the radio and crushed it under her sneaker with a sharp crack. You think numbers make you real? She hissed. Ramos backed up. We've seen the ring footage, Emily continued. Mrs. Patel, the veteran down the street. You threatened an old woman over a garden gnome. No, Ramos said, voice shaky. We didn't. You picked the wrong house, she snapped. And then the bald guy made his final mistake. He pulled something from his vest. A taser. Michael's eyes went wide. But Emily moved first. In 3 seamless motions, she stepped forward, twisted his wrist, and flipped him. He landed on the lawn with a painful thud. Gasping. The taser skittered across the grass, landing at Michael's feet. He picked it up. It was real. Fully functional. Not a toy. They weren't just pretending. Ramos took a step forward, but Emily blocked him. Move and you're next. And then the sirens came. Fast. Loud. Real. Somebody, probably the teenager with the phone, had called the cops. Emily crouched beside the bald man who was curled up in the grass, groaning. You thought I was some housewife, she whispered. You thought you could grab me and get away with it. I train fighters who've broken bones in cages for less. You're lucky I showed restraint. His eyes went wide. Ramos tried to explain, to backtrack, but Emily kept her eyes locked on him. You wore the vest. You played the part. That makes you complicit. Ramos dropped his clipboard and ran. He got maybe 5 steps. Emily sprinted silent, clean, terrifying in her speed, and tackled him mid-stride. They hit the grass together, and she pinned him like she'd done it 1,000 times. Don't fight, she said. I don't want to hurt you. But I will. By the time the first police cruiser turned the corner, lights flashing, Emily was already standing with her hands raised. Michael had his hands up too. These 2 aren't real HOA, he told the officers. They assaulted my wife and tried to take her. The officer in charge, a tall man named Sergeant Dawes, scanned the scene. The fake uniforms. The broken taser. The bruised ego of 2 men who thought power came from a patch on a vest. Jesus, he muttered. We've been hearing rumors about fake enforcers. Neighbors spilled onto their lawns. Cameras in hand. Stories pouring out. They threatened my kid. They tried to tow my car. They said my fence was too blue. It was over. The men were cuffed, gear confiscated, SUV impounded. Ramos sat on the curb, eyes hollow. The bald one winced as paramedics examined his wrist. Emily stood in the shade of her porch, arms folded. No anger. Just silence. Michael came up behind her. You okay? I am now, she said. And the neighborhood, after years of quiet fear, finally began to breathe again. By sunset, the story had already hit the news. By Monday, it was everywhere. Clips of Emily flipping the fake cop. Headlines reading, Woman destroys fake HOA enforcers. Emily didn't care about the attention. She turned down podcast invites, ignored sponsorship offers. But she read every handwritten letter that showed up in their mailbox. You gave me courage. I wish someone like you had been there when it happened to my daughter. You reminded me I don't have to stay quiet. 2 weeks later, at a packed city council meeting, Emily stood before the microphone in a plain t-shirt and jeans. I'm not a hero, she said. I just didn't freeze when someone crossed a line. But the truth, ISI shouldn't have to be trained in combat to feel safe in my yard. None of us should. The room gave her a standing ovation. Afterward, the mayor joked, "If you ever want to run for HOA president, I think you've got the vote." She smiled. "Only if I get to train the board." The HOA, under massive pressure, launched a full investigation. One board member was removed. Private enforcers were banned district-wide. A citywide hotline was launched for residents to report HOA abuses. The scam was over, but something else had begun. Something better. A reminder that sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge. Sometimes it wears sneakers, speaks softly, and hits like a freight train when pushed too far. And when people asked Michael what happened that day, what really happened had always answered the same. They came looking to scare someone. But they knocked on the wrong damn door.